Welcome back to Chant Radio, where we snapping out of hypnosis and deprogramming from the deep program. I'm Loomis. I'm your host. This is episode 105 of Chant Radio, part 2 of the 5G series, The Invisible Prison. And part 1, if you haven't listened to, I highly recommend you go back. Part 2, here I invited on an extra guest, Elana Freeland, and she adds to the perspective of already the powerful crew I put together of voices that are warning you about the rollout of the 5G, and very important information to sift through and understand. It's a quiet war on you and everything living, and it's got to be understood by every single human being. This is advanced level understanding of an intricate yet fully in your face elephant in your living room. And so I recommend you go back and listen to episode 104 first, then go to episode 105. The last show I put in the category of the EMF pollution series. This one I'm putting in as part 9 of the Real Skyfall series, and I know that's a little confusing, but the way that the subject matter fell, this is more about the aerial spraying versus the EMF pollution, but it's all related and all connected, so you will find this as part 9 unofficially as of the Real Skyfall series. But without further ado, I will bring you this interview and enjoy and understand and sift through it and assimilate the information. It's very important. Welcome everyone to episode 105 of Chant It Down Radio. This is part 2 of 5G, The Invisible Prison. This time I brought another guest on for this important discussion, Elana Freeland, who is an investigative author, teacher, researcher, and speaker, author of a must-read, Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, and other great books too. In addition, I've brought back to the show Max Igan and Matt Landman, who were on part 1, both great filmmakers and activists. What a lineup. I got all three. So welcome, Elana. Welcome back, Max Igan. Welcome back, Matt Landman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to be here, brother.
Thanks, guys. And I really appreciate all of your works, and I really appreciate everyone taking their time out to do this interview. It's an honor to have all of you in the same place. We are connecting about 3 time zones across the planet, so it's been a little hard, but it all worked out. And I also want to thank the audience for listening and having the courage to wake up to this and want to do something about it. So to those of you listening on this show, I've said time and time again that people don't see the system. People can't see their slavery. They don't connect it together, the masses that is. They see things as a separate and disconnected network that they don't see that's working together against their freedom. You know, people see bits of social injustice. You have a protest here and an outcry there, but they don't see the real connection of the entire system in this weaved, interconnected web that takes life away from us. They don't understand the media as a giant stage show, lying and manipulating them constantly, theatrics. They don't understand the schools that are trying to factory process us out of our natural state and condition us. They don't understand that they are slaves to a monetary system. And people are not getting upset about the foundational things that are holding them back and poisoning their minds. And then that goes the same with this 5G rollout. The elite have a technocracy, never can say that word, right? Constructed around us, and people are so distracted they don't even know. Worse, they've been programmed to not even care. And so they've made people love the internet. People love their smartphones. I mean, look at everyone. They can't put their phones down for less than a minute. Look at a crowd of people. Everybody's hunched over looking at the screen. They love their Facebook, social networking. They love Wi-Fi. They make people love what enslaves them. Well, I'm finding that 5G and the Internet of Things is the next big nail in the coffin. So, Elana Freeland, I'd like to start with you first, since you're new to the show, and your research into 5G and what it means for the future of humanity.
Oh, that's a big question. That's partly what I did in the most recent book that came out, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. In there, I try to show the system of what I'm calling, and the military, the Lockheed Martin guys, are calling the space fence, and that it's actually a geophysical planetary system turning the Earth into a machine, much as Dr. Rosalie Bertell tried to warn us of a couple of decades ago. And I've now begun the next phase of this three-part study that I had no idea what I was getting into when I started all this back in 2011 or so. And that is the synthetic biology piece. I wanted to start the 5G. You mentioned theatrics, and I just have to share this with you guys. It's very brief. I've written it up. It will be in the next book about 5G. So listen to this. And I do think this has to do with theatrics. Okay, a strange story circulated long before the iPhone 5G became the latest deadly technology looming on the public horizon. In March 2010, an Apple computer engineer drinking at a German beer garden in Redwood City lost control of an iPhone 4 prototype that was later sold to Gizmodo for $5,000. The following year, in July 2011, the 5G prototype disappeared at the Cava 22 Tequila Lounge in the San Francisco Mission District and was subsequently sold for $200 on Craigslist. 4 plainclothes San Francisco Police Department officers accompanied 2 Apple security officials to 22-year-old Sergio Calderon's Bernal Heights home. The Apple officials searched his home for the lost iPhone 5 prototype, but found nothing. Then, Apple's chief of security operations, John Tiralt, was forced to take early retirement. That's it. I mean, how weird is that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was all staged. I think both the phones were staged to disappear in public, in a bizarre manner, pointing perhaps the public, these are from newspaper articles, pointing the public to how careless people are, I suppose. But no, I think this is a magician's trick, kind of, the two incidents together. And that's something I think about when I study the 5G tech, because I'm finding stories in opposition to each other. For example, that the millimeter waves in 5G will not go through walls. And then I'll find an equal story in a similar outlet saying that the best thing about it is it goes through even concrete. So I think what we're looking at here, like the other one would be, has the rollout happened, or is the rollout just for 5 cities? All of it is very murky and very manipulated, so I'm proceeding very carefully, and I'm happy to hear what you fellows have to say.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about the two conflicting. There's a lot of conflicting information on it. I don't know. Max Igan and Matt Landman, have you seen some of that too?
Well, I can speak to it. Matt Landman here. Living in Arizona now. Arizona is the first state to deploy. There's these choice words that are being used, and deployment also being used in the geoengineering spectrum, deployment. But for 5G, the word deployment, as if we're at war with something, it's kind of interesting, and it is a quiet war. The deployment is happening full scale, statewide, in Arizona as the first state. I know it's been rolled out in Tucson, and as I go down there, I see these different new things on lampposts and what have you, and it only takes a semi-well-trained eye to start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. The thing with this 5G frequency is they have to put up repeaters. They call them small cells. They have to put these small cells everywhere because the wavelength is so small that it can't, even if it's really powerful, it can't be put everywhere unless they have these repeater stations. So they're putting them on street lamps, they're putting them on stoplights and what have you, and I thought they were already active where I live in Sedona, Arizona, but they've yet to put in all the infrastructure. So we've got them on our street lamps, but they don't put off the radiation that they do in Tucson. So I've got a radiation meter, and I'm actually filming the second film that gets into 5G, and I'll be even interviewing Elana, which I'm looking forward to, for that sequel to my other film, Frankenskies. But I've got an EMF meter and a microwave radiation meter, and when you get when you get into the city of Tucson, this thing's going off the entire time. But when you get near these big cell towers or these small cells, it's going off, and it's at harmful radiation levels. And if you want to live in an environment like that and try to give birth to a child, I'm sorry, but these tests haven't been done on humans, and we need to actually somehow to take this responsibility into our own hands, or somehow have the EPA held accountable or something like that, because we're being targeted.
I talked a couple days ago to somebody from South Korea, and apparently they have 5G entirely. I don't know if you guys know that, but
I do know that, and Korea is all 5G is one of the first countries to do it.
Yeah, and so I talked to the girl, and she didn't know anything about any of this stuff, but I was just asking her. I was like, so what is it like? She goes, oh, it's really fast, and it's really great, but she didn't have any knowledge of what we're talking about. But I imagine that is what they're selling it as, is faster internet, better connectivity. That's just kind of what that's the first person I've ever talked to from a place that has 5G, though, except for you, Matt Lamon, who's been to Tucson. But yeah, that's all I've heard so far from people that have it.
Here, I can add a couple things. So the thing about the 5G is it's a slow kill, right? It's just like all the other programs. How are you going to step into a population and show the world that they're being impacted by fluoride, all right? Because fluoride is a slow kill, just like geoengineering, just like this war on frequency that we're now being subject to. So stepping into something like that and trying to prove it is pretty difficult. But when you have these different studies, such as the exposure to electromagnetic fields and suicide rates among electric utility workers. Okay, so you've got people working on these electric utilities that are being exposed to EMF fields, like the people who work on the 5G towers, and their brains are so messed up that they're killing themselves at alarming rates. All right, there's studies like that are coming out that are showing that people that are near these towers, they're having a statistically significant high chance of birth defects or stillbirths, or you've even got residents in Gateshead, I think is how you say it, or Gateshead, I don't know, you could probably help me with that one, Max, in the UK, where the people that are next to these street lamps that are now outfit with the 5G microwave frequency repeaters, they're giving statistically significantly high rates of stillbirths. Okay, so all of a sudden, people who are subject to these, we have to take science into our own hands and stand up for ourselves and bring the statistics to these agencies that have been bought by the telecom companies and what have you that are experimenting with their frequencies on us. But do we really need faster phones? I mean, has anybody really had a problem watching their YouTube videos? Last time I heard, the self-driving cars were pulled from Uber because it killed someone on its initial rollout, right? So what do we really need all this speed for, and why to the detriment of humanity and not being researched fully as we launch it full-scale deployment? That's the question we have to ask.
Right. Definitely. Well, I wanted to connect this to, I think, a really huge issue, too. I want to connect this into the chemtrail spraying, because let me give a little short story to you guys, and then we'll go from there. I've shared this before on the show, but I never went looking for any of this information. It's funny, it just found me, and I wasn't really at all. In 2008, I bumped into an insider who told me, he invited me over for afternoon tea, and he was the son of a CIA contracted scientist, and he told me all about the different spray programs, and I didn't even know the CIA had scientists, so I just was that oblivious, right? I mean, I knew about all this stuff for a long time, but the one he told me the most about was the nanotechnology inside our bodies, the Morgellons, and he explained that when we are around technology, it makes this network of wires grow in our bodies, along with poor diet, genetically modified foods, and things like that. And he said when they turn things on, turn things up, like HAARP or ionospheric heaters, we'll be more connected to these in a more of a trance from the frequency. And he talked about these wires forming antennas in our bodies, up our spine and into our heads. So this was in 2008, and Wi-Fi had only been around a little while. He talked about the digital switchover as a key component to this grid and connectivity to everything. And he had no idea of 5G at the time, or the Internet of Things, at least I don't think. But he did say that out of all the spray programs, that the Morgellons were the crown jewel of their operations. This was like a really important piece. And he did talk about the connectivity of things like HAARP pulsing into smaller antennas, like wind towers, cell towers, which in turn connect to our phones, the Wi-Fi, your smart meter, all those things. Now, all of this makes so much sense, and this is like the means to an end, in a way, the Internet of Things, to merge man with machine. So I wanted to get your take, Max Igan, because you have a video up about us being modified for the smart grid system, and let's start with you on this, and if anyone wants to chime in after that, let's just flesh this whole thing out.
Yeah, well, when you look at all this, I mean, the whole 5G grid, I mean, it's going to do a lot of damage, health-wise, just by being there. It'll be like we're all living inside a microwave scanner, so you're going to see all sorts of health defects happen, which they'll cover up. Like there'll be vitamin D defects, and I'll say that's because of this or whatever, and they'll bring in some new supplement for you, whatever, so there'll be all that sort of stuff. But there's been a lot of disinformation with this, where a lot of people think as soon as 5G comes online, we're all going to get fried. 5G is needed for the speed to get all this happening. But it's like you say, it's all the little devices and what the things they're putting out, the frequencies they're putting out, what your microwave oven's putting out, what the airport scanners are putting out. 5G is needed so that everything can be connected in real time. You need that type of bandwidth to run anything as big as the Internet of Things, especially if people are hooked up to it as well. But when you look at all this, I mean, you look at the airport scanners and things, all of these things break our DNA, and you've got to ask why. What is the purpose of breaking our DNA strand? Well, what would you do this for? And when you look at things like Morgellon, well, if they were going to introduce a new strand of DNA, and with the quantum computers and things that they're building now, these are all based on 3-strand DNA. And so what's this all about? Well, if they were going to introduce a third strand into us, wouldn't they need to break our DNA in certain points to create points for the third strand to bond onto? And is that possibly what Morgellons is, a third strand of DNA that's being introduced into our system? And because it's made of nanotech, is it not possible then for this to probably carry a carrier wave to hook us up to the quantum computer or whatever they want to do for us? I mean, there's all sorts of possibilities where they could go with this, but there's no doubt that everybody has Morgellons fibers in their body. I mean, you can take saliva or blood or flesh from anybody, and you can culture Morgellons virtually out of anybody in a petri dish. And those that are distributing symptoms of Morgellons seem to be like those who are rejecting the fibers, but most of us aren't. Most of us are assimilating these fibers. So, with this whole Internet of Things and what they're doing, I mean, there's so much more to it. when you look at the whole concept of social crediting and digital currency, and I've talked about this ad nauseum on radio shows recently, how they can limit your purchasing power. Once they've got us all hooked up to a mainframe and they're identifying us by our DNA, and that becomes our password, how are they able to manipulate us in other ways? So it's all very, very speculative at the moment, trying to figure out exactly what they're doing. But all the research seems to indicate that what they're doing is introducing a third strand of DNA to us and somehow hooking us up to this Internet of Things ourselves, whether we want us to be hooked up or not.
Can I chime in just for a minute? This is Matt here, Matt Landman. So what I see for the interconnection of the geoengineering and the 5G is the blood-brain permeability. They're trying to get away with getting these nanoparticulate metallics in our brain, and that's a challenge, right? Not everybody is fluoridated. Fluoride helps take that. It escorts the nanoparticulates past the blood-brain barrier, but the aluminum itself, it can't pass your blood-brain barrier as easy. So if you're eliminating fluoride from your diet and you're chelating, you might not be even subject to as much nanobots as they want. So they're trying to figure out a way to get that right in your brain. But if you increase blood-brain permeability by increasing the 5G radiation, then, they work hand in hand, just like all the other agendas. What do you think, Elana?
Well, the way I look at it is that the 5G is a linchpin, as you're all indicating, in that they'll be able to stack various frequencies on the pulses that's coming through the 5G that will be consistent 24/7, and that those will resonate with the nanobots that are already in our bodies and our beyond our blood-brain barrier. This is a surefire way, and that's why I call it a linchpin in the book. This is a surefire way that they're going to be able to control whole swaths of the population. They'll do it through the IoT in everybody's house, and sometimes what I wonder is, was the smart meter sort of not a Trojan horse exactly, but a first volley.
It was a test run.
To see what the public reaction would be and see what the problems were, when really, all in all, the 5G was the main actor on the stage. And I was surprised when I was researching and getting ready to write a part on 5G. I was surprised to see that that it was really all the way back in 2013 that they started out with what's called the Etherhall 600T small cell backhaul system. And they were putting up small cells at street level on telephone poles already that were 57 gigs to 66. And as you know, the 5G is actually 30 gigs, which is billions, 30 gigs to 300 gigs. And so it was already claiming that V-band spectrum. That's 2013. So I was fascinated to see that, when they break something out, you think, okay, they've finally succeeded. No, this has been in the hopper for years to do this. And what I always try to point to people is that the fact that our atmosphere is now ionized is pivotal for all this technology in how it's coming out at a lightning pace, and they all seem to have all their I's dotted and their T's crossed because they've been waiting for this for decades, and that's why I think that the 5G will be the linchpin. The scariest thought to me, folks, is that they're going to be able to manipulate these nanobots in our bodies, in our brains, remotely by the 5G. They will be able to peer into, either the hive mind, the swarm mind, whatever they want to do. This will be the key, because this millimeter wave is not just another generation like 4G, 3G. This is a very different creature. This is a creature very much like what's called the Tetra signal in UK that Barry Trower talks about. The police department there is all deeply entrenched in. And Max, I hope when you go to Britain to give your talk that you might be able to hear more about this Tetra system that's based on terahertz.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to know about it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what the 5G will be able to do, and that's why they need something like 5G to carry such an incredible amount of bandwidth. I mean, you think if you've got everybody hooked up to this, and you've got every appliance and every plant water to pill bottle, as they say, hooked up to this, you need an enormous amount of bandwidth to pull it off.
Yeah.
But also, it's an active denial system as well, so they could easily use this to cordon off certain areas. They could use it to create active denial zones. I mean, the possibilities of this are absolutely endless. And where we're heading to with this whole thing, I mean, they'll be able to monitor every single thing everybody does. It'll curtail human freedom and human expression to a point that is beyond Orwellian. And, you won't have anybody be able to think outside the box at all. And if they do, they'll get discarded. And 5G will be able to do that. And that's where we're heading. And people really need to pay attention to what's going on. I think that's why they've escalated so much theatre of conflict and all this rubbish that we're seeing in the Middle East and everywhere at the moment, just to keep people distracted from what's happening right beneath their feet.
I also think that one of the parts that I mentioned earlier that we're being sent in variety of directions about the information of the rollout of 5G. I also think that that it's possibly true. I was reading some thoughts by a guy who is working with Tony Pantalaresco in a variety, looking at the variety of health remedies that people can take. Those who are in active Morgellons, or those who are in passive Morgellons, where it's just inside waiting to happen. This fellow had the idea that the 5G is really already here in the cell phone. You can tell because the iPhone addiction that is happening among, particularly I see it with the young people with their heads down and all that. I don't own an iPhone, but they are actually, the millimeter wave is already there, and they're already being programmed.
Oh, yeah.
And I tend to think that's true. I mean, we keep hearing about this rollout. Well, yeah, maybe on a neighborhood basis, and they've promised the rural, though I find it hard to believe they'll be able to do the rural given the distance factor that the millimeter wave can do. But I do feel that certainly Elon Musk's thousands of mini satellites up there, the CubeSats, is going to be the other part of that for the rural rollout. But at the same time, I think it's already here. I think that many of us are already dealing with the 5G through the cell phones.
I think,
go ahead, Matt.
Possibly, but I think they're probably being programmed in other ways through cell phones as well. I mean, the dopamine addiction that you get from cell phones is phenomenal, and a lot of kids have grown up with that. I mean, every time you click an icon, it releases dopamine, so you get this instantaneous pleasure. So it's pleasure by the minute, pleasure by the second. Every time you click something, it's a little pleasure release. And it's just this addiction that they've got for dopamine as well, I think, is a big part of that.
I see young girls, especially, like 20-something, so absorbed in their phones, possibly worse than guys. They use it as like a gossip device and an attention-getting, self-centered selfie fest, and they even use it as a mirror for makeup. I mean, I just look at society a lot, and even worse, I see, because women often don't have as many pockets on their clothing, I see women storing it in their bra, their phone, or in their yoga pants, and every time I see someone like that, I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't put that there, and they just look at me with these Google eyes like, huh? But yeah, I just see the society, like I talked about on the last show with Matt Landman, there's a phone trance. People are stuck in their phones.
And I forgot to mention in that show when we did that, once we got off the air, I had gone to a film festival and watched Generation Zapped, and they got some amazing footage and corollaries to cell phones and tumors, especially in women with bras on. And I'd like to touch upon what Elana was saying about the smart meters. What I see with the smart meters is they rolled out this frequency manipulation so that there wouldn't be a crazy statistical spike in different cancer rates, because they've already ushered them in slowly but surely, right? And then to see how people would react, and then to have that in place so that they could have their network, because this will be repeating the frequency just the same. And then again, to interconnect the 5G to the full big picture with the geoengineering and everything, I see transhumanism really playing a role here, because the 5G rollout, once it's completely, like Elana said, the rollout has been ongoing for a while. And I remember when that spectrum was sold to from the FCC, and it was decades. It was over a decade ago. I mean, they've been putting this together for quite some time. But once it's all in place, and that microwave frequency is blasting hospitals, and unsuspected mothers are not wearing copper protective clothing over their womb, and they're even still carrying those phones. A lot of people don't know that the phones are actually the next generation of these smartphones. Those will be small cell towers. They will no longer be receiving the frequency. They will be emitting it. So microwave frequencies emitted from your phones, just like having a small cell tower right next to your belly and you don't know it, the next generation will become sterilized. There's going to be stillbirths galore. No one's going to know what the monkey, whatever you want to call it, in the room is, but it's going to be that 5G technology. And then they'll push this transhumanism. They'll tell people, well, you have to live forever and try to do this soul consciousness transfer and become part robotic and this and that and live forever as a cyborg so that you can save humanity, because no one can have children anymore. You know, you see where this is going?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they've been pushing towards that for a while. I mean, they've been developing ectogenesis chambers. They're able to develop functioning sperm out of stem cells now, and they were developing how to create functional eggs out of stem cells last year. And so, yeah, that's definitely where we're going, and you're seeing that this is happening already. I mean, it's incredibly hard for people to have children now. But this has been an ongoing thing. I mean, ever since they invented television, this has been the plan all along. That's why you've got all these kids looking for clicks and likes on Instagram all the time, seeking attention all the time, because they never got the attention from their parents they needed, because their parents were replaced by television. This is what it's all about, and it seems normal to just put your kids in front of the television, but it creates this environment where it's not a loving environment that your child grows up in. You don't have that connection. And so your child grows up looking for something, and it doesn't even know what it's looking for, and it's looking for that normal attention that it would have got from its parents that it didn't get. And so it goes out and spends its life trying to get likes on Instagram or Snapchat, looking for attention all the time, not even knowing that's what they're seeking, because they don't know what's been taken from them. You know, this whole thing has been an ongoing plan ever since the invention of technology. It's all been leading to this point all along. That's what it's all been about. You know, the predictive programming through television to lead us into this technology. So it all seems perfectly normal, all this futuristic stuff they brought us all the time. It all just seems a perfectly normal line of events to be leading into this. And it's all been an ongoing plan. It's all coming to a head right now, and people really have to pay attention to it. And the smart meters will monitor everything. The smart meters will monitor everything in your home. They'll set the radiation field up so that everything's talking to each other. And they only need really one on a block. Like, there's a rollout in the UK. They want every 8 in 10 homes to have a smart meter, but they don't even need that much. Like in Holland here, they've already announced they only need one smart meter on one block to be able to monitor every smart device in that block. And they only need to suspect one person in that block of committing a crime to have permission to monitor the entire block. So that's what's been brought in Holland already. So, you know, you can see where it's all going.
And do they have 5G there yet, Matt?
They're rolling it out. They're putting up the towers and putting up all the relay boxes and all that. They're not here yet. Everyone's rushing to get it out first. Australia's trying to be first online. I know it's being rolled out in Australia, back in my home country. They're rolling it out on the Gold Coast in the town that I live in. And that's lightning fast. They want it all in place by the time the Commonwealth Games happens later this year. So it's coming online everywhere, you'll find.
Right. And the other thing that I want to bring into the dialogue is how how prone to resonance we are. And what that means is that we vibrate. We tend to match the vibration in our environment. Certainly, people who meditate have been telling us this for decades, that meditation will calm us and give us a different frequency, a different vibration, so that we can deal with anxiety and be centered and all that. But now what we have is this infrastructure, which I have termed the space fence, on the ground-based space fence, that it's all around us. It's been built around us in the name of convenience and comfort. And that's part of this too, is that wherever we go, we're resonating to the wireless technology that's been set up around us and is going 24/7. So I think that the anxiety level of people, and it is amazing to me how anxious people are about this 5G. I mean, it should be good news to me, but it's kind of strange news to me that they would have heard this but not everything else. But maybe it is just aggregative. I don't know. But the 5G will throw this into another sort of lockdown in our nervous system, in our circulatory system, in our brain. And that's what I'm wondering about, is with the cell phones and computers, we're already resonating with them. We're all resonating around the same resonance. And Billy Hayes, the harp man, was very specific with me when he was advising me on the technology and the Space Fence book. He said that the thing about the wind towers, the fracking wells, the NEXRADs, the radar installations, the cell towers, the Gwen towers, the cell phones are all being tweaked to and calibrated to work as one, and that's the key to me. Is if you're going to embed human nervous systems into this system, you're going to have to deal with the fact that we are resonant, and you're going to have to give us the same resonance. And that is something I really ponder what that looks like. Is that the hive mind? Is that the swarm? And how far has it gone so far when I encounter masses that really, one mindless person after another with a very pleasant demeanor in my own town? How far has it gone?
Elana, would you say that, or all of you actually, but have they been spraying these Morgellons? I know that the spray programs have been going on since, as Matt put in Frankenskies, for a long time. But the actual nanoparticulates, how long do you think they've been doing this full-scale deployment of these nanoparticulates? I mean, a lot of people say that they started full-scale spraying around 1995 or something.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, but I'm close friends with Clifford Carnicum, and it's been since the late 90s that he's been collecting data. He was collecting fibers from his HEPA filter. He was gathering precipitates in northern New Mexico and analyzing them. And that was when the fake clouds were up there, and what I now know to be plasma clouds. And the program that I concentrate on in the first book is the Project Cloverleaf. And certainly Matt is right in his Frankenskies film that this goes back to, we can take it back to World War I. My publisher sent me a book that was published in 1911 of military experiments in Europe of clouds and of weather, silver iodide stuff, and trying to control the weather as that far as that. But what I concentrate on is cloverleaf, and that entails getting pilots of commercial airlines to sign non-disclosure agreements. That entails classifying the jet fuel, the JP8 fuel, and even the biofuels that they're coming up with now. Everything's classified. Military jets have the same kind of fuel. And, we all argue in the anti-geoengineering movement, we still argue, we always argue, about is it just in the fuel? Is it just the coal fly ash and sulfur and aluminum, barium, strontium, titanium, lithium, nanoparticles in the jet fuel, or is there an alternate supplementary system? And I have taken up the banner for both and instead of either or. It seems like the Westerner constantly falls into the either or, but really it's usually both and. So I think that the Morgellons itself and all other biological pathogens that are being dumped on us to see what happens to us, and I think there's more than just Morgellons, but what Clifford renamed it the cross-domain bacteria, because it has parts of all three nature domains in it. It has been genetically engineered, and it has been genetically engineered for this chemical signature that our jets are dumping, that our rockets are dumping, that is injected into fracking wells, that is injected beneath wind farms. I mean, this is a huge move on planet Earth to turn it into, yes, a weapon, but also something that can be absolutely controlled before launching into control over the solar system, because we are living in a space age, and we happen to be the rats that are in the maze, and they want to see how things work in us. But the nanotech, you are absolutely right to really concentrate on the nanotech, and that's chapter 3 in the latest book. This is a revolution. I mean, nano, as Max has said in a few of his videos, it's in everything. It's in our food. It's in our clothes. It's in makeup. It's people can get one of those little 60 power microscopes for $7 on the internet, and you can see that it's on all the fruits and vegetables in the supermarket, including the organic section. I mean, this is everywhere, and this is not just Morgellons, but this is nanobots, sensors, microprocessors, pathogens. The full gamut has been released in the stratosphere to come earthward and for us to breathe in and see what happens.
Yeah, and it's in food, like, deliberately as well. I mean, they're putting it in candies, in sauces, in dressings, in cereals, in all sorts of stuff. And the chemtrails is a multi-delivery system. It isn't just nanotech. I mean, all the barium and strontium and stuff, like you say, the air around us is positively charged now to help this whole 5G. So that's what even with they carry a very small amount of distance, these 5G towers, so you think, well, they're not going to be able to have it out in the country. But what if the air is positively charged, and they can? But what if they're putting these poles so close around the city because they can create active denial zones? They're putting a fence around the city. They're putting an electromagnetic fence around the place so they can activate it anytime they want. But the 5G will carry anywhere, every way, because of the positively charged atmosphere. I mean, there's a very good possibility that that's what they're doing. Very
good, Max. I think you're right.
And I could add, please, Matt here, that, well, first off, I agree with everything that Elana said, and Clifford Carnicom is amazing in his research and all of that. But to further link it all with the nanotech, I saw a Rice University nanotechnology department video that showed what the self-replicating carbon fiber nanotube technology does under EMF environment, and it replicates. And then for people to take a step back, oh, wait, how could they experiment on us and all that? Sorry, but they do. It was uncovered that the city of St. Louis was sprayed with radioactive cadmium in the 70s just to see how many children would die from it. The experimentation, it doesn't end. And the nanotech, it seems like it's probably started in the early 90s. And now that we've all been saturated with it, they're looking for a means to turn it all on. Once you start looking at like how they can spin viruses into desiccated blood cells, and we're finding that in the rainwater and all that, it gets really, really fascinating and interesting. So just to stick to the carbon fiber nanotube technology, and I'd love to hear what Elana has to say because I'm sure she's dug into it. It's self-replicating carbon fiber nanotubes. So these nanotubes can replicate on a nano basis by getting carbon from your body, I guess. I don't even know exactly, but they can replicate. And in this Rice University video, once they turn on the 5G level EMF radiation, the tubes immediately just start multiplying, and they grow to this whole size of the petri dish, but they were otherwise inactive without that frequency. Ilana? Yeah,
that's the fullerenes are what I primarily study, and that's carbon tubes. This is so close to we could go back to the Big Bang, which I don't believe in, by the way. I espouse the electric universe, but there was a time when the entire universe is 99.999% plasma, and plasma being the fourth state of matter. Really, now that I'm looking at it more deeply, I would say it's the first state of matter, and it comes. I think that one of the largest operations going on now that the atmosphere is ionized, yes, the weather, because the weather is certainly important to control and to have be able to create Alvin waves and Birkeland currents and all the rest that has to do with the creation process. I mean, these are psychopaths who think of themselves as gods of the earth, and what they are really concentrating on up in the upper atmosphere is plasma experiments. And so the fullerenes are really interesting in that we're down to a very, very, very tiny level of existence with the carbon nanotubes, or the whatever you want to call it. So now they're going to inside our body, which is like a little test tube now. I'm recommending everyone think of themselves as little chemistry labs and observe and learn, and try this and try that, alkaline, acid, as if we are all petri dishes now. That they want to see the process of creation. And so these Morgellons and other pathogens that have been, they've used bacteria in order to make all of them, because bacteria is so excellent a medium. Now they want to see how they operate in us and what happens. Now, I have been through one attack of Morgellons. I'll call it an attack. I do feel it was an attack. I've talked to another woman who had Morgellons much more seriously than I did, but it was on my legs and right on the calves. And I was due to go and visit with Clifford, spend a week with him and Carol in Idaho, about 2 weeks before I got this little patch on each calf. And so I took my little leggies across the state to Idaho, and Clifford and I used a razor blade to scrape the skin off of my legs, and so we could look at it under a very high-powered electroscope. And what we saw was, yes, Morgellons, and more. And of course, Clifford, being as painstaking as he is, a conservative, true scientist, he said that he would have to run many, many more tests than we were able to do in our week together. But I feel that that cellular development that was going on, when I would feel the skin on my legs after that healed, and by the way, everything went away after I left there. Everything went away. I felt it, and it was a neural, what I call a neural net. It had made an alternate skin, and that's what you're getting at. It is self-replicating, but it also can take on it is able to mimic in a perfect way whatever the cell nature is that it's attacking. And so it made its own type of skin on my legs. And then when everything went away, that went away as well. So that now I have my leg skin back. I'm sorry I'm being so bungling in trying to tell you what this was like, because this is unbelievable. And the only thing I can think of when Max was talking about the Morgellons, I was thinking, yes, and I need to say that I think what it does in its ability to mime insects, it can look like insects. I have an amazing video in which it looks like a small, slender human being loading a skin cell with a fiber. It can mime various things. And the question I have now from my experience, which was very minimal compared to the suffering of so many people that I'm in touch with, is that I believe that someone knew I was going to visit Clifford and gave me something to take that we could work on there. And I did have 2 military helicopters over my little humble abode here just about the time that I had the outbreak. So is it possible that they're loading us through the chemical trails that we breathe in, and then it goes into sort of stasis inside, or it's doing its little thing of making a network. That's what it's good at. That's what it does, and it's completely genetically engineered to respond to wireless technology. Absolutely. And then, so it's in there, and then boom, someone or some program decides to activate it in a variety of people, a set, you can call it, if you're doing an experiment, a set of people in order to see what happens according to their genetics, according to their neighborhood, according to the geomagnetics of their area. Who knows? I don't know that. But is it possible that that's another part of the 5G is, like Max was saying, to have an active denial system and establish perimeters by which you can activate that particular area for a particular pathogen effectiveness?
Well, yeah.
Well, you could even do it like with all of that. You could even do it so that you just simply activated a single person.
Yes.
Create an active denial, just active denial for one person, so they can't leave their home or they can't go into certain areas, simply by activating whatever's in there with the Morgellons and the fibers and the nanotech in their body.
Absolutely.
So it's reading that signal. So even with an active denial zone, it could be an electromagnetic fence that everybody can walk through except you.
Yes.
What would be
Absolutely.
what would be the purpose of an RFID chip then? If that's even still an agenda, I don't even know. It seems like it is an agenda to put RFID chips into people, but at this point, we basically are chipped.
You don't need the chips.
Point.
I think it's consent.
The chips are a red herring, and this is keep people scared of all this sort of stuff. That's why you see it in the news and promoting it. Oh, they're bringing this in, and there's a few companies that have done it. And they're doing it just for workers, and everyone thinks, oh, we're getting microchipped. They don't need to microchip you. You're full of nanotech already. They can use your DNA as your password. They can use your bioacoustic resonance as their password. Even if the nanotech didn't exist, they can simply bounce a sound wave off your body and use that as your password. So they don't need to microchip anybody. That's a red herring. And we're already full of this technology anyway. So, and it's growing through our body. It's created this network, and it's just waiting to do what it's going to do, depending on what it's programmed to do, which will be determined by the genetic environment that they've set up in the general population through the vaccine programs and stuff.
And Max, that's where I also thought of the active denial system you brought up, is that the elite could cordon off an area that will simply not be affected by all of this.
Oh, yeah, they could. Absolutely, they could do that through this whole system. And let's not call them the elite, because they're not elite. We've got to get rid of that word. They're the cacistocracy. That's the word that I've been reintroducing, the cacistocracy. Hey, listen to this as well. Cacistocracy is a word that was taken out of the language about 100 years ago, and I reintroduced it about 3 years ago. And 2 days ago, John Brennan, when he left the White House, he said to Donald Trump, your cacistocracy is failing. So that word is now being used in the White House. So me introducing that word, don't think that these politicians don't listen to the independent media and don't think that we're not making a difference, because that word's now back in circulation and they're using it in the White House, and I reintroduced it. So that's how far people's reach can go, you know.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, in a way, I had mixed feelings about writing the book I just did because, in a way, I think they depend on us now in order to see what we're learning, and maybe they'll have a few laughs, but eventually they're going to pay very close attention to everything they're picking up from us.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They want to know what we're doing. That's why they let us protest. They want to know what the general consensus is. They want to know what we know. And that's why they let us do what we do as well. I mean, that's what the whole truth movement's been about, the exposing of the hierarchy, the externalization of the hierarchy. That's why they let us do what we do, because they can gauge the public awareness level. They can see what they're getting away with, see who knows what, and they let us do it because it's almost impossible for us to stop them anyway, unless we can raise the people and then get some sort of common focus in the people. And they put so many infiltrators in the movement that it's almost impossible for that to do. You know, so very clever they put all this together.
Can I ask you a quick question? When you talk about the ionization of the atmosphere, are you seeing that there's an impact on UV radiation at ground level, specifically X-rays and gamma rays?
Well, that's the research that Marvin Herndon and Ray Hoisington just came out with, a paper printed in one of those science journals. Ray has the radiometer, and he's taken the readings for the ozone. So I have to depend on his input in that, because he's got the data. For me, the ionizing of the atmosphere is absolutely evident, because now I know that I'm not looking at clouds filled with moisture. I'm looking at very dry clouds that are made of plasma. And the only way you can maintain that type of cloud cover, whether you call it albedo or you call it SRM or whatever you want to call it, that plasma cloud cover cannot happen without this ionization, which is why, again, that I maintain that this program is my primary for looking at over the decades of all the things they have done to try to find a way to control the weather, is that they did not have HAARP in the decades before. They absolutely needed HAARP in order to turn our atmosphere into a mini ionosphere. And once that was done, and once they understood how to use the ionospheric heaters in order to keep it ionized, then all of this went forward with a tremendous speed.
And Elana, I wanted to touch upon something that you mentioned really quick, Matt Landman here, and then I know that we're somewhere getting to a close, I'm not sure. Right. But you were talking about how people were waking up, Elana, and at staggering levels, all things considered. I mean, you don't see people protesting vaccines or geoengineering or GMO or fluoride or any of these pertinent issues as you wish they should be, kind of thing. But the 5G, a lot of people are waking up really quick and really fast and coming to like-minded activists or reaching out to their politicians, or they're getting upset and quickly, and I think it's because it's at ground level. I mean, you can deny what the clouds in the sky are or whatever. You can look down at your phone. You can deny the fluoride because your dentist says it's okay. But when you've got a massive cell tower that's now no longer one cell tower per town that's really tall in the sky, now they're down at ground at eye level, okay, and they're huge and they're all over, and people are having tumors because they're living next to them and stuff like that. I mean, what better wake-up call for some in-your-face evil stuff? They make me cringe. When I come down the I-5 corridor to, for instance, come see you, Elana, I cringe every 5 minutes. It's scary, and I've done research into protecting myself, and now I have copper-lined clothing so that I don't have heart murmurs every time I pass these things. But really, this is really important, and I think that like I always say, the more the dark shows itself, the light can wake up, and we're just in a process of waking up and realizing that we are in a quiet war, and we have to just tell everybody and get it to the right people and petition and remove those towers, because if you're quiet, you're consenting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even a matter of petitioning. We've just got to name things for what they are and say we want them gone.
Exactly.
The politicians that have put them out are in abusive office for putting them up there. We know that studies haven't been done. Just point them to the speech, Ted Wheeler's speech from the FCC. He said on that speech, we will not wait for the standards. They admit that they haven't done any studies.
That's
and
right.
we can show the damage these things are doing. I mean, with the Empower movement, what they're doing with these liability notices, take action against these things. Don't petition them. These politicians are your employees. They work for you. They are all in abuse of the office that they hold. They're rolling out this smart system around you, which is going to be a total lockdown, remove you of all your rights, make you incredibly sick, and they're not even giving you the choice to ask, yes, no, we want this, no, we don't want this. They're not giving you any decision in it at all. So you need to take the matter in hand and realise these people are your employees, and we will not tolerate this. It's as simple as that.
You're exactly right.
If you're going to petition them, it's not going to work. You just ask them to please be nicer slave masters and please don't be so evil to me. It doesn't work.
You're exactly right.
Your government is trying to kill you. You need to realise that you are at war here and stand up and do something about it, or it's game over, people. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And let me just be clear. I didn't mean to petition to your local people. I just mean to get active and get loud so that people can raise enough awareness to bring this light to the right people, to everyone.
I know. I'm just getting a little passionate about it because people have got to realise this. We've got to take the matter in hand. These people are your employees, and you don't have to do what they say. This is ridiculous that we're allowing them to do this, and everybody's up in arms about it finally because they can see the health damages that are going to come with this. But don't think petitioning them or asking them is going to work. You've got to get up there and ask them to show cause why they should not be held in abuse of the office that they hold for even doing this in the first place, and say we want them down now, and here's the liability notice in your own language, in your own law. If you don't pull it down, you personally are going to be held financially liable. You, Mr. Minister or Mr. Energy Minister or Mr. Governor or whoever you are, we're going to hold you personally financially liable. We're not going for the office that you hold. We're not going for the electrical company. We're going for John Smith, the CEO of the electrical company. And we're going for this guy who's putting it on the House. And we're going for this politician who signed it into legislation. We're not going for the office anymore. We're going for the people. And we're holding you personally liable for your actions because it stops here. That's the attitude people have to have. And until we take that attitude, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah,
you've got to start realizing that what
power.
we're dealing with here is just people. They're just people. They're not politicians. They're your employees. They're just people. Treat them like people.
And people have to come into their own power and recognize that they actually do. One person can do a whole lot. And, sometimes I get discouraged myself because I have a full-time job, I have a family and all these things. But just by doing even a simple show like this and broadcasting it out and getting the information, it does get heard. And I just kind of wanted to roll in with some solutions as we are kind of talking about right now. But I know all of you have different remedies and things. I can tell you personally a couple of holistic solutions that work for me. One of them, so very simple, is just getting out into nature and getting away from all this EMF pollution as much as possible and recharging. And another one, and I think Elana, you probably know about this one. I was told by the insider about this. I was talking about earlier is the wine rinse, being using wine to swish and spit out some of this this nanoparticulate material. It seems to have a clearing effect in my mind when I've done it and shared it with others. Is that a solution that you would recommend to Elana?
Well, I don't think of the wine test as a solution. I think of it as a way to make real to yourself that you have living fibers in you that are not organic. They are part organic and part non-organic. And if you want to see those, then use the wine test. You can go to carnicominstitute.org to find out how to do it exactly so that you know you're looking at what really is coming out of your body. But for solutions, I'm a big fan of Tony Pantel Valeresco, who is a Canadian, and he has Morgellons, and he is experimenting on himself and sharing what he's found. And he's using not only dietary things, but he's using baths, and that's something I do. It's the bath will pull the nanos out of your body, and if you keep up the regime for, say, a week or 10 days, you will see extraordinary amounts coming out of you, and that is with Epsom salts, sea salt, and borax or boron either. And so Tony is doing a lot. He's also using magnetic fields. He teaches you how to build a magnet, a magnetized triangle that you can take in the bath with you, and it will force them to come out. This is all new. This is all new and very exciting. And what Max was saying, I would recommend, if people are interested in what he was saying, that they look at that film, Take Back Your Power, which goes through what he was saying and more.
Yeah, those guys were great. Matt here, I was in communication with them. They were considering coming to Tucson to speak at the conference that I'm hosting coming up on May 12th. Just to touch upon the health aspects, if you look at Dr. Sebi, S-E-B-I, he was fixing people up of all sorts of things before he was mysteriously jailed and killed because of his practicing medicine. But alkalinization, if you are giving your body an acidic environment, your body doesn't have the ability to heal and to do what it needs to do. Our bodies are incredibly powerful. If you focus on remineralization, getting up to speed on your magnesium, a lot of people don't know that every molecule of sugar you eat, it takes 54 molecules of magnesium to process that one molecule. If we're mineral deficient, we're absorbing all these toxins from the environment, so get up to speed on that. Get alkaline. I started juicing. I swear to you, I look in the mirror after 1 week of juicing, and I look different. My body can maintain in an alkaline environment. Your cells can reproduce in a manner that aren't prone to these self-replicating carbon fiber nanotubes, being in an enriched environment for them. Also, I don't even have Wi-Fi. Also, just like Elana, I have a flip phone, and I hardly even get near it. I have an EMF reader. I mitigate my exposure to these frequencies because I know I'm going to be faced with them in my future. If you're a mom, get away from your cell phone, turn it on airplane mode. Don't put that phone on your belly. There's all sorts of things to mitigate these risks to live a healthy and happy lifestyle. You just have to take the knowledge into your own hands.
Yeah.
Very good. And Max, Igan, do you have some solutions as well? I know you talked about, stopping these people that are putting in these towers and everything. Other holistic solutions you may have?
Well, ultimately, everything we're doing, we've got to factor into the equation of the world's run by criminals. The world's run by this cacostocracy, and we've got to deal with that. We can do all these things that you're saying, and it's good to do all of these things we're saying to look after our health and to try to get these nanoparticles out of our body. But while they're still spraying them, it's not really going to make much difference. While this is still going on, it doesn't matter what solutions we apply, what band-aids we put on the problem until we deal with where the problem's coming from. We've got to realize that this world's run by criminals. All the governments on this world are working together. They're all one organism, and they're not your friend. Government killed 262 million people in the last century, killed by their own governments, and that's what these people do. That's all they do. Government is racketeering. That's all government is, and until we factor that in, we're not going to get anywhere. The good thing about the 5G is that it is uniting people to the fact that we are in a state of clear and present danger, but we've got to identify where that danger is coming from. We've got to eliminate it at the source, which means we've got to hold these people accountable. That's my solution. People have got to stand up for themselves and stop this happening. It doesn't matter what solutions we do, otherwise it's like we're just getting an umbrella and keeping ourselves out of the rain, but the storm is still coming. And it's not going away until we stop it at its source.
And when Max says that, just remember that you've got to have your health in order to do all of that. So you must find a way to support your immune system.
Yeah, I agree. All the health things, we have to do it. We do have to take these steps to get our health in check and keep it on track because we need it. But we do have to eliminate it at the source of war. We've got to identify the fact that the world's run by criminals and stand up for ourselves because they're just people, just like us.
Do you guys think, in the end, that this whole technocracy, this whole grid, will actually be turned on, or will natural forces, kind of get spiritual here, but will humanity break through it to the other side and not let it happen? Because it's I know that in this current state we're in, yes, people aren't looking at this enough to even try to stop it, but do you think in the bigger scheme of things that humans will let this technocracy become life forever?
People need to wake up, and people need to take the responsibility of honoring the truth, and in that have the integrity to wake up the people around them and realize that they're more powerful than they could ever imagine. If everyone could wake up one person and have this domino effect, then we can have that actual activism to get to the point that we need. But at this juncture, it's a numbers game, and we don't have enough people yet.
Good point.
Yeah, I can agree with that. We're at a turning point. 5G is waking a lot of people up, and there's a huge groundswell happening, and that's a good thing. But it could go either way at the moment. It depends on whether people are going to be putting Band-Aids on the symptoms or whether they're going to be looking at the root core of the problem and dealing with this cacostocracy. And that's a big step for people to take. It really is. To step into their personal power is a really, really big thing for people to do because they've never done it before. So, hopefully we can lead by example and create that type of groundswell, not back down in the face of all of this and just keep speaking our truth, and we'll inspire others to do the same.
Yep, ditto.
I love you, Elana, and thank you so much for sharing that Morgellon story. It was really heartfelt, and it really meant a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, guys, for coming on,
brother.
Thanks for coming on, you guys. It was amazing, and I think this is a really groundbreaking interview. All three of your perspectives put together. It just it'll be out there, and I hope people take in all this information.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, and I'm so happy to have been honored to be with the participants.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, brother. Thanks for asking me on.
Oh, yeah, anytime. We can do it again, too. So you guys enjoy the rest of your day and stay activated.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
guys. All right. Take care, you guys. And that is the conclusion to the 5G Invisible Prison series. Yeah, it's always open-ended. I think Max Igan summed it up very well with the problem is that the problem itself is government, and it always is government, and it's something I talk about time and time again on this show. The audacity of people, if you even want to call these people, I mean, probably they're not, but the audacity that a body of humans has the right to rule over you and steal your freedom, tax your income, and then without your consent poison you with chemtrails, endangering the life of every living thing on this planet, and push you to integrate with an invisible prison system of a technocracy and make you like it even. Is that sick or what? I mean, 5G is a big deal, and it's way more important than any political issue anyone is concerned with, and it's way more important than anything you're going to see in the news. All of that is just big distraction anyway, This is a quiet war, and it's happening without your consent, and it's happening constantly, and it's been building constantly. It's more important than just about every issue in the alternative media anyway. Also, I always come back to this. I am at heart an activist against chemtrails and the technocracy of EMF pollution that is being bombarded on all of our loved ones. It's such a huge issue. It's the reason your weather is messed up. People's priorities are so backwards. And what are you going to do when loved ones come down with cancers from all this forced integration to radiation? I mean, what are you going to do when they digitally block you out because you don't have any more autonomy over your own life? this is a big deal. That's why I invited these three important voices on. And I think that you can really take a lot from this in getting the understanding of what the real world that we live in. This world you do every day, your 9 to 5, 8 to 5 slave job, that's not real life. Regular life, as I always say on this show, is not real life. We got to look at what's really happening. While you're at work, people are messing up your lives. You know, I just recently watched a documentary in Papua New Guinea about white men for the first time meeting a tribe. The tribe had never met these white explorers. And they were introducing things like matches, mirrors, and machetes. And, you know, this was amazing to them. This tribe was just like, couldn't believe it. And suddenly they want them too. And so those things like matches and mirrors and machetes, they look innocent to us, but the way of life that can rapidly change because of their wanting this new world can just totally domino effect on their world. It's the lure of the modern world, you know, something new. Well, I liken that to the dangers that we are facing with this implementation of the technology in our world. You know, the masses have no idea, you know, how this 5G can unravel and domino affect our own world. It's a Pandora's box situation. Like I always say on this show, though, don't get paranoid or panic. I'm not trying to promote fear, but a tsunami is coming and we should prepare and fight this. Would you rather fight it when it last second? Would you rather ignore it and let it just hit you, or would you rather be prepared? So, you distracted is points for them, and one more nail in your coffin. So that's why I put this 5G as a big priority here on the show, and this link up with chemtrails. So important. I just wanted to give out the websites of my guests that I didn't get to do during the time with them, but the website for Matt Landman is actualactivist.com, and for Max Igan it is thecrowhouse.com, and for Elana Freeland it is byebyeblueskies.com, and also check out elanafreeland.com, which is her blog site. Both tons of information, all three of those sites, great films out of these people, and just a wealth of information. So I hope you enjoyed that. My website, chantitdownradio.com.